The clinic on Virex 9 smelled of antiseptic and blood. The air recyclers hummed, overworked and underpowered. A single overhead light flickered, casting an uneven glow over rows of makeshift cots. The Dominion called it a humanitarian outpost. Locals called it the last place before the grave. Clara Wynne moved between beds with practiced ease. Her white coat was too clean for this planet. Her hands steady. Her eyes quiet. She adjusted a bandage on a boy's forearm, 10 years old, scraped up from a mining collapse 2 nights back. "Does it still hurt?" she asked. The boy shook his head, lying. Clara didn't press. She brushed a hand across his forehead, nodded once, and moved on. The morning rounds finished before second cycle bell. Clara stepped into the medbay's storage, locked the door behind her, and let her expression drop. Her shoulders tensed. The datapad in her coat chirped softly. Surveillance feed, external sensor node 3 offline. Timestamp, 2:13 standard. She stared at the alert, then slowly powered the pad down. It was the 3rd sensor failure in 2 days. The clinic had no perimeter defenses. Dominion protocol required civilian trust. Which meant if anything went wrong, it was her problem. Clara walked to the utility locker. She bypassed the biometric lock with a finger tap and retinal scan. Inside were vials, scalpels, gauze, beneath them, concealed in the second tray, a matte black syringe with a green seal and a slim vibroblade disguised as a tongue depressor. She took neither. Instead, she lifted a small metallic sphere no larger than a cherry. It pulsed once in her palm. Clara slipped it into her sleeve. That afternoon, a shipment arrived late and light. The pilot, a rat-faced Dominion contractor named Velk, usually came with jokes and extra rations. Today, just silence. His eyes darted. He didn't look her in the face. "You good, Velk?" Clara asked, signing the delivery manifest. He didn't meet her gaze. Orders changed. Just basic meds this time. Painkillers were requested. "Check the crates," he muttered, already walking off. Clara watched him leave, face unreadable. That night, she sat in the back office, cross-legged on the floor. Lights off. No noise but the soft whir of the generator through the walls. She laid out a set of tools. Not surgical, but old gear from a past she pretended to forget. One by one, she assembled a sensor relay, activating an internal proximity ping on her neural chip. A blip. Just one. A warm-bodied contact, 3 clicks out. Holding position. She sighed and stood. The next morning, he walked in. Tall. Gracefully built. Dominion standard uniform, altered subtly for movement. Too clean. Too deliberate. He entered like a man surveying cattle, not patients. Clara stood at the central console, mask in place. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Routine inspection," he said. His voice was melodic, smooth, like lubricated steel. She noted the slight bulge on his hip, not a med scanner. Clara tilted her head. Didn't receive any notification from Central. It was urgent. His eyes flicked across the room. "And classified." She nodded slowly. "You have ID?" The man smiled. "I don't need one." Clara offered a small, polite laugh. "Everyone needs one. Even ghosts." He stared at her. A flicker of something in his gaze. Surprise? Admiration? Disdain? "Fine," he said. He tapped his wrist console and flashed a Dominion emblem. Too clean. Digital only. Fabricated. She let it pass. He moved through the clinic with casual indifference, brushing a hand along an empty cot, peering at supply lists. Every step screamed control. She followed 2 paces behind, playing the nurse. "You've been here how long?" he asked without turning. 5 years. No transfers. No need. Strange place to settle. Clara offered a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sometimes quiet is exactly what you need." He stopped at the orphan boy's bed. The child stirred, winced in his sleep. The man stared down, face expressionless. Clara moved between them before she thought to. "He's recovering. Radiation exposure." I see. He left the room without another word. Back in the office, Clara sat alone again. She played the brief encounter over, dissecting every word. Sarthkal. She didn't need his name to know it. She recognized the gait, the barely concealed muscle beneath a uniform designed for deception. He wasn't here to inspect. He wasn't here for the Dominion. He was here for her. She opened a drawer and removed an old black case. Inside, a crumpled photo of 4 humans in tactical gear, smiling in front of a burning wreck. One of them was Clara. The others were long dead. Beneath the photo, a small patch, faded letters embroidered in Terran gray. Project Requital. She closed the case. Later that night, she sat beside the boy again. His eyes fluttered open. You look tired, he whispered. I'm just thinking. About what? She paused. About wolves, she said at last. And how sometimes the sheepdog isn't what he seems. The boy blinked. You're the sheepdog? Clara smiled gently. Go to sleep. As the child dozed off, Clara stood and walked to the medbay terminal. With a few swift commands, she sealed access to the lower floors and locked all exit route. She rerouted power through analog backups. Old tech no Dominion drone would flag. If Sarthkal was still watching, he wouldn't notice a thing. She walked to the far end of the clinic, past the storage room, down a forgotten hall no one used. At the end was a steel door. She pressed her hand against the panel, felt the heat as it scanned her palm print. Access granted. Requital protocol. Behind the door, darkness waited. She stepped inside and closed it behind her. Time to prepare. The assassin had arrived. He just didn't know the nurse he hunted was trained to kill. The sky over Virex, 9 burned copper in the evenings. Pollution from the nearby refinery clouds settling into the horizon like ash over a dying campfire. Clara Wynne watched it from the clinic's rooftop, silent and still. Her coat fluttered in the wind, blending into the metallic hues of the cityscape. Below her, the assassin moved. He'd made no effort to disguise the surveillance drone that now floated near the market square. Clara spotted it between buildings, small, unmarked, passive. Dominion tech. It hovered like a patient vulture. She noted its angle, then turned away. Inside the clinic, nothing looked out of place. Patients coughed. Machines beeped. Nurses passed quietly. Clara walked the halls with practiced calm. She adjusted IVs, administered injections, reviewed charts. But her mind calculated movement patterns, blind spots, time gaps between patrols. When the power flickered, no one panicked. Virex 9's grid was old, unstable. People were used to sudden outages. But Clara noticed the timing. Every 7 minutes, sharp, 4 seconds each time. A signal. Not from her. She entered the storage room, sealed the door, and scanned the wall with a modified med scanner. A pulse of static bounced back. Someone had embedded a transmitter behind the insulation. It was new. The glue hadn't even set. Clara didn't touch it. She didn't disable it. Let him listen. Let him think he was in control. That night, he returned. Sarthkal walked through the clinic's main entrance like he owned it. No uniform this time. Civilian jacket, boots with Dominion-grade tread, a sidearm hidden beneath the fold of cloth. Clara was alone at the front desk. Your superior requested a second audit, he said. She tapped a few keys. No record of that. It was urgent. Her fingers didn't pause. So was the last one. He smiled again. Less amused this time. She stood. Come with me. They walked the halls together, silent. She took him through the surgical wing, the labs, the backup medbay where broken equipment collected dust. She offered no commentary, no statistics. Just silence. He broke it first. Your clinic is very organized, he said. Clara nodded. You've maintained higher output than other Dominion medical units on this moon. People here don't stop getting hurt. And you don't stop treating them. She turned to him, meeting his gaze directly. Is that unusual? He stared back, unreadable. No. Just admirable. They stood a moment longer. A beat passed. Then two. Neither moved. Finally, he walked on. Later, after he left, Clara made her move. She began altering small things. Shifts in the supply inventory, mislabeled shipments, false blood type entries in non-critical files. Just enough to raise suspicion if he looked. Enough to keep him coming back. Every step was bait. She installed a second sensor behind the medbay wall. Low frequency, short range. Not Dominion standard. Earth tech. She synchronized it with the internal heating systems, masked beneath the ambient pulse of power loss. If he breached the wall at night, she'd know before he did. The following evening, the boy from bed 6 sat on the floor in the hallway, toy in hand. Clara crouched beside him. "You shouldn't be out of bed," she said. He grinned. "Boring in there." She handed him a small cube with colored lights. "Try this one. It's harder." He looked up. "Why are you giving me puzzles?" "Because you're smart," she said. "And because keeping your mind sharp is the best way to survive here." He nodded solemnly, then added, "The tall man came again." Clara froze. "You saw him?" The boy nodded. "He smells like metal. Not like a person." Clara placed a hand on his shoulder. "If he asks about me, what do you say?" The boy thought for a second. "That you gave me a puzzle." She smiled, just faintly. "Perfect." Sarth watched from the shadows of the alley across from the clinic. He'd reviewed her file 4 times now. Human. Age 32. Born in the ruins of Sao Paulo. Medical training on a Dominion cruiser. No record of military affiliation, no known relatives, no psychological flags. A clean, efficient worker in a forgotten place. And yet something was wrong. He'd killed too many to miss the scent of resistance. Clara moved like someone measuring every inch of her environment. She noticed things she shouldn't. Didn't ask unnecessary questions. She had the poise of someone who'd seen far more than a village clinic. Still, he couldn't make the move yet. Dominion assassins operated under silent doctrine, no target confirmed, no strike. But protocol frayed when instincts screamed otherwise. He activated the lens overlay on his left eye. Her heat signature showed steady. She was sitting by the window, alone, drinking from a metal flask. Too calm. He closed the lens and turned away. Clara opened the encrypted channel only once that night, hidden deep in the sub-basement behind a decommissioned MRI shell. The line buzzed once, then stabilized. A voice filtered through, heavily distorted. Male. Human. "You've been marked," he said. "I know. Sarth Call doesn't miss. He hasn't taken a shot. Yet." She adjusted the antenna. "I need clearance." A pause. "Kill code granted." She exhaled slowly. "Anything else?" "Don't fail when. There aren't many of us left." The next morning, Clara came to work early. She handed out supplies. Changed bed linens. Laughed at a joke from one of the miners with a busted leg. Everything looked normal. But the backup entrance was sealed with a triple lock mechanism. The ventilation system had been rerouted. The incinerator schedule altered. One wrong move from him, and the clinic would become a labyrinth of blind alleys and pressure-locked chambers. Sarth returned just before nightfall. He stood in the entryway, eyes scanning the room. Clara didn't greet him. She stood behind the main desk, hands resting on the counter. He stepped forward. "I'll need to inspect the lower floors tonight." She tilted her head. "There are no patients down there." "I wasn't asking." Clara stared for a second, then smiled lightly. "I'll unlock the doors." As he followed her down the stairwell, his hand brushed the side of his coat, over the holster. Clara caught the motion from the corner of her eye. She didn't react. She reached the door, keyed in the sequence, and stepped aside. "After you." Sarth hesitated. Just long enough to show he didn't trust her. Then he walked in. Clara followed, the door hissing shut behind them. The hunt had begun. But the predator wasn't who he thought it was. And in the tight, dim corridors of the clinic's lower levels, Clara Wynne waited, not as prey, but as the blade hidden beneath the bandage. The lower levels of the clinic weren't meant for visitors. Bare concrete walls stretched endlessly, lined with flickering lights that hadn't been serviced in years. The scent of sterilization faded here, replaced by rust, old coolant, and time. Clara moved ahead, every step measured. Sarth followed close behind, gaze sharp, breathing steady. He hadn't drawn his weapon, but his fingers twitched near his hip. "You said this floor was storage," he murmured. "It is," she replied without looking back. "Some of it's classified." "Classified under whose authority?" "Hippocratic," she said, dry. He didn't smile. They stopped at a bulkhead door marked C7. Clara tapped in a code. The panel blinked red, then green. The door opened with a soft hydraulic hiss. Inside, rows of sealed crates, no markings, no lights. A chill hung in the air. Cryo-storage systems pulsed quietly in the background, unseen. Sarth stepped in, eyes scanning. "What's in them?" he asked. "Things that don't concern assassins," she said softly. He turned sharply. "Excuse me." She faced him fully. "You're not a Dominion auditor. You're not a supply officer. And you're certainly not here to inspect my clinic." He didn't deny it. Instead, he stepped forward, slow and deliberate. "Then you already know what comes next." Clara didn't flinch. "You're late." Before he could react, the room darkened. The door slammed shut behind them with a heavy clang. A locking bolt hissed into place. Then came silence. "Trap?" he asked. "No," Clara said, reaching behind one crate. "A choice." She pulled out a small, square device and activated it. The lights overhead flickered once, then stabilized. A soft blue glow illuminated the chamber. Sarth didn't reach for his weapon. Not yet. "You're not afraid." "I've been hunted before." He stepped closer. "You're part of Requital." Her silence was confirmation. "They said you vanished after Terrasite 17. "I had patience," she said. "Still do." "You killed 3 Dominion officers." "Only 2. The third bled out before I could finish." His eyes narrowed. "You're not a nurse." "I am," she said, stepping forward. "But I was something else before." He didn't move. "You're trained." She stopped inches from him. "So are you." Neither blinked. Then his hand moved, a blur toward his belt. She was faster. The syringe from her sleeve plunged into his forearm. He jerked back, slamming her into the crate, but the compound was already entering his bloodstream. He stumbled, eyes wide. "What did you—" "A neural blocker. Non-lethal," she said. "Unless you've got synthetic augmentations." He dropped to one knee, breathing shallow. "You'll regret this." "I already do." She stood over him, face calm. "I didn't come here to kill you," she said. "I came to find out why the Dominion is still hunting ghosts." He looked up, voice strained. "We never stopped. Even after we disbanded? They don't care. Requital humiliated them. You were never pardoned." She crouched, watching his pupils dilate. "So they sent you to clean the record?" He nodded faintly. "Told me you were just a rogue medic. That you'd turned. That it would be clean." She studied his face. "But they lied," she said. "Didn't they?" He didn't answer. She tapped his wristband, pulling up a coded message log. The most recent entry: "Target is unaware. Will complete extraction within 48 hours." She sighed. "Efficient." Sarth tried to sit up. Failed. "You're not the worst they've sent," Clara added. "But you're not the best either." "You should finish it," he growled. "Now." She stood. "I'm not like you." Clara didn't sleep that night. She dragged Sarth to a side chamber and locked him in. The neural blocker would wear off in hours, but by then, he'd be behind 2 layers of steel and at least 3 triggers of automated defense. Low-tech, non-Dominion traceable. She sat in her office, alone. On the desk sat the old photo again. Requital. 4 humans. One by one, they were eliminated. Clara was last. She tapped a message into her private channel. Confirmed. Dominion sent another asset. Not local militia. Internal orders. Assassination class. The response came within minutes. No extraction. You're on your own. Recommendation: neutralize. Clara stared at the message. Then deleted it. By morning, the clinic returned to rhythm. Miners came in with burns and sprains. A child was brought in with lung trauma. Clara treated each one without pause, her face unchanged. The nurses didn't notice anything different. But the boy from bed 6 watched her carefully. "You look angry," he whispered as she checked his vitals. "I'm not." "You're thinking too loud," he said, tapping his temple. Clara smiled, just barely. "Then I'll think quieter." That evening, she returned to the locked chamber. Sarth sat against the wall, alert again, body tense. "You could have killed me," he said as she entered. "I considered it." He rubbed his arm. "That shot, where'd you learn that compound?" "Same place you learned to break a man's neck without sound." He smirked, then winced. "What now?" "I'm letting you go." He stared. "You're not serious." "I am. But you won't be leaving the way you came." "Why?" "Because I need you to deliver a message." She stepped closer, voice sharp. "Tell them requital isn't gone. Tell them we remember. Tell them this is still our territory." He shook his head. "You really believe that? You're alone." "I was," she said. "Now I have something better." His eyes narrowed. "You've got a clinic full of civilians," he said. "You can't fight the Dominion." "No," she replied. "But I can make them bleed for every step they take toward me." He stood slowly. "You know they'll send another." "I hope they do." She handed him a data chip. "Deliver that. Say you failed." "And if I don't?" "You won't get off the moon." She turned to leave, then paused. "You're not like the others," she said. "That's why I'm letting you walk out alive." Sarth watched her go, silent. Above, the copper sky was turning silver. Storms rolled in from the refinery plains. The boy stood at the clinic window, staring at the horizon. "Something's coming," he whispered. Behind him, Clara stepped quietly. "I know." And as lightning broke over the mountains, Clara Wynne prepared for the next shadow that came hunting. She wasn't just waiting anymore. She was ready. 3 days passed. Sarth was gone, disarmed, tracked, and released into the canyons beyond the refinery line. If he made it back to Dominion Command, he'd arrive with a limp and a lie, that the target had fled, that the trail went cold, that she was no longer a threat. Clara Wynne knew better. They would come again. This time, she wasn't preparing to survive. She was preparing to end it. The warning came just after dusk. A signal pinged the sublayer of the comms grid, encrypted one way. Clara caught it on her modified neural pad, eyes narrowing as the data decrypted in a flash. 6 inbound. Dropship cloaked. ETA 19-minute. Non-civilian. Execution squad. She stood without speaking. The nurse beside her, a young woman named Mila, raised an eyebrow. "Emergency drill," Clara said, already walking. "Move everyone to the sub-basement. Lock the doors. You don't open them until I say." Mila blinked. "Drill? What's now?" Clara didn't look back. In the control room behind the surgical wing, she activated dormant systems. Lasers she'd disguised as sterilization beams spun silently into alignment. Vents resealed. Hallway floodlights dimmed to infrared. This wasn't a clinic anymore. It was a kill box. She entered the old trauma wing, abandoned, untouched since the Dominion's first inspection. Her cache was there, sealed behind a surgical fridge no one had used in years. Inside, 1 pulse rifle, 2 thermite charges, a combat knife still etched with blood she didn't recognize. Earth-made, all of it. Unregistered. Untraceable. Clara strapped the gear on with clinical precision. Then she sat, waiting. The first soldier entered without sound. Dominion black armor. Full mask. Silenced weapon drawn. He cleared the front desk, checked the medbay, then gave a soft signal to his comm, clear. He didn't make it 3 steps before his spine snapped. Clara dropped from the rafters behind him, twisting hard with the garrote she'd hidden in the duct. He gurgled once. She dragged the body into the hallway before the next scout arrived. They found nothing. No sound. No struggle. Until the lights went out. A second trooper turned a corner and took a needle to the throat, a surgical injector filled with molecular acid. His scream never escaped the helmet before it melted. The third triggered a false alarm, only to step into a room that sealed from the outside. Clara watched from above as thermite bathed him in fire. No scream. Just silence. 3 down. 3 to go. One of them finally spoke into the open channel. "We've been compromised. Target is active. Level C, confirm fallback." Clara hijacked the frequency. "No fallback," she said, voice smooth. "You came here to kill me. Try." The remaining 3 split, 1 to the lower levels, 2 to the roof access. Smart. Uncoordinated, but smart. She let them. In the basement, one of them found the sealed vault. He used a scanner, military-grade, Dominion issue. But he didn't account for the analog trap, a pulse-mined floor tile. He stepped on it, and the room went dark. His body never hit the ground. The ceiling came down first. Clara kept moving. She found the last 2 on the roof, scanning the terrain for retreat paths. One aimed his rifle at a passing drone. The other barked coordinates into a wrist pad. She shot the second through the jaw. The first turned too late. Clara was on him before he could fire, blade in hand. She didn't go for the throat. She drove it through his shoulder, pinned him to the rooftop vent, and pulled his mask off. His eyes were wide. Young. Probably 20. He opened his mouth. She covered it. "You followed orders," she whispered. "That's all." Then she broke his neck. Quick. Quiet. By dawn, the sky had turned gray. Rain hissed over metal. Clara stood by the incinerator, helmet in hand, armor streaked with ash and blood. The bodies were already gone. Data wiped. No alarms. No Dominion trace. Inside the clinic, life resumed. Mila returned to duty. The boy from bed 6 played with his puzzle cube. No one asked questions. They never did. That was how she kept them safe. Later, Clara walked alone to the canyon ridge beyond the city. Wind tugged at her coat, cold and sharp. She stood on the edge, staring out into the dust storms rolling across the plains. A shape moved behind her. Sarth. He looked rough, scarred down one side of his cheek, one eye covered with a patch. But he was alive. "You didn't leave," she said. He shrugged. "Didn't want to." "Then you saw the smoke." He nodded. "They sent a full squad," Clara said. "Didn't make it past the front gate." "You took them all?" She didn't answer. Sarth stepped beside her. "They'll send more." "I know. They'll never stop." She finally looked at him. "Then neither will I." He paused. "There's another way." "Diplomacy?" she said dry. "No," he said. Requital wasn't just 4 names. There were others. Survivors. Deep cover. She didn't respond. "I can bring them here," he offered. "We rebuild. I'm not running a rebellion out of a clinic." "No," he said. "You're building a future." She looked out over the canyon again. "I'm protecting one." Sarth reached into his coat and handed her a worn patch, black cloth, red insignia. "Requital." "I'll stay," he said. "If you'll have me." She took the patch, folded it, pocketed it. "We'll need to train," she said quietly. Sarth smiled. "And we'll need more of those injectors." Clara laughed just once. Below them, the wind howled through the rocks. Above them, the sky remained still. And within the heart of a forgotten moon, a nurse who had once been an assassin chose to become something else entirely. A sentinel. No longer hunted. Now the hunter.